So I've decided to give the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic another chance in 2026 because overall it is not a bad smartwatch, but there's still a few reasons that I'd pick the Galaxy Watch Ultra over it. And the first reason, of course, is battery life. The Galaxy Watch Ultra obviously falls short in the battery life section too, but the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic falls even shorter. After spending a bit more time with the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, I'm still finding that it's hard to push it past the 2-day mark. And the more that I wear the Watch 8 Classic, the more I'm realizing that getting over 30 hours out of this smartwatch is a pretty tough ask. This, of course, is taking into account heavy usage, making use of features like your GPS and your always on display, but the 20 hours or more difference between the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic and the Galaxy Watch Ultra, you can really feel it. Now, usually with smaller batteries, you tend to get faster charging speeds, which you do, but they're not all that much faster than the Galaxy Watch Ultras. With the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, it will charge from 0 to 100% in around about an hour and a half, sometimes up to 2 hours, depending on what charger you have. The saving grace with the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is that it can get from 0 to 45% in around about half an hour. And those metrics are actually really important because whilst it's not industry leading, it might just make the Watch 8 Classic actually worth it for you. You see, if you're not going particularly far and you've got a relatively consistent, predictable routine / lifestyle, I believe any smartwatch that can last over 24 hours on a single charge is in fact a valid choice, because if you can find just 30 minutes a day, say as you wake up in the morning or just before you go to bed, you can effectively keep the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic charged up indefinitely. So let's say that you do fit into that category of people with a bit more of a consistent, predictable lifestyle and you're not all that bothered about having industry-leading battery life on a smartwatch. What are the other downsides to the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic? Well, when it comes to feature set, there really isn't any other downsides to the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. It's actually extremely well equipped. In fact, you've got everything the Galaxy Watch Ultra's got, just at the lower price point. And you also have to consider that Samsung have even redesigned the lug system here, and the back of this watch sits even closer to your skin, so you're actually getting more accurate readings in comparison to the Galaxy Watch Ultra. So in essence, you're actually getting a little bit more for a little bit less. Although I have to say, in the real world, I've not actually noticed a difference in accuracy between the two watches. Although this redesign of the back of the smartwatch and the lug system seems like a massive positive, there are some downsides to it as well, because for a lot of people who might have owned a Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, for example, you can no longer use your watch straps. You're actually going to have to buy new watch straps for this. I'm going to put a few links to ones that I know to work with the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic in the description and the pinned comment for you, but that is something to bear in mind. Other than that though, there is a lot to love about the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. You're getting things like your body composition analysis, your sleep tracking, SpO2, heart rate, vascular load, and much more, including your ages index, which is a great one to keep an eye on your overall health. The newer features this year are things like your vascular load and then that antioxidant index, which both of them I think are really great ideas. The vascular load one is a passive tracking feature, so that'll go on overnight. But with the antioxidant tracking, I mean, it's a great feature. I just don't find myself using it. I think it is because it is not a passive feature that's going on in the background. It is something that you manually have to do every day. But if that is something that you find interesting, I think it's a great idea to put that feature on a smartwatch, and it's great that the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic has got it. On top of the health features, the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic can take and receive calls directly on the watch. It can even send messages on platforms such as WhatsApp. You can even browse the internet and watch YouTube videos directly on your smartwatch. The big question in all of this though, when you're considering buying a Galaxy Watch 8 Classic though, is do you go for the Bluetooth variant or the LTE variant? And let me tell you that I've been reviewing Galaxy watches for around about 5 years now, and I have to be honest, I don't think that the LTE variants are actually worth the money. And I say that because in a lot of countries, you can't just simply copy your SIM over at no cost. You actually have to buy another SIM card. So that's an extra monthly expense in a lot of cases. On top of that, the LTE functionality can actually drain your battery even more, making the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic's already pretty shaky battery life even worse. So in my opinion, that extra $50 or so spent on the LTE version just isn't worth it. Now there is of course one feature that the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic does have that the Galaxy Watch Ultra doesn't, and that is of course that rotating bezel. And it's something that I feel has been sorely missed on Samsung's other smartwatches. It's not just fun to play with, it actually serves a practical purpose. It's much easier to navigate when you're doing sports. It's pretty much the only way to navigate when you're out swimming, and it also looks pretty cool. But speaking of looks, I'm still not 100% convinced by the appearance of the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. I'll admit that after revisiting it in 2026, I do think it has grown on me a little bit, and you can't deny that in comparison to the rest of the Galaxy Watch lineup, it does offer a degree of sophistication and I suppose luxury that the other smartwatches don't offer. But do let me know in the comment section, do you like the design of the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, or do you prefer some of the older classic variants? Anyway, the thing that bugs me the most about the design, I think, is actually the size of the display. Obviously that rotating bezel is brilliant, but it does actually take up a significant portion of the display. You've also got this inner static bezel as well, which takes up even more space. Coming from the Galaxy Watch Ultra and going back to the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, it really does feel like a very tiny smartwatch. And obviously there is a degree of practicality that you get with having a larger display on a smartwatch. That all being said, I do actually have a big positive to point out on the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic's display, and that is the display brightness. That now goes all the way up to 3000 nits. And to be honest, I've never really found myself in a scenario where I was wishing that the display would have been brighter. 3000 nits of brightness is pretty industry leading in terms of displays. Samsung obviously know what they're doing in that sense. In terms of the rest of the body, we've already spoken about this redesigned lug system and the back, so it now sits a little bit flatter in comparison to some of Samsung's older smartwatches. But we've also, more importantly, got 3 buttons on the side, much like we do on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. However, there is a stark difference between the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic and the normal Galaxy Watch 8 variant. The regular Galaxy Watch 8 only has 2 side buttons, whilst the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic has got 3. So that means you get this action button in the middle, which I've got to be honest, I use all the time. It's really great for setting off your favorite workout. You can also remap and customize these buttons to do various things. For example, set off Google Gemini, which is a really handy thing to have on a smartwatch. So we've deduced that there's a few things that the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic has got that the other Galaxy Watch variants don't. But there is one thing that all of the Galaxy Watches do now have, and that is Google Gemini, which is ever changing and just getting better and better. Now you can literally turn your watch into a personal trainer, which I think is such a powerful feature, and also much more reliably than you could when we just had Google Assistant. You can now confidently control various things around your smart home directly from your watch. And I just want to slide in here how impressed I've been with Samsung's smart things. I started adding more and more things into that ecosystem now, and being able to control these devices from your smartwatch really does feel pretty amazing. I can do things like set my washing machine off from my wrist. I can even, much more reliably than we used to be able to, control my Samsung TV directly from my watch without having to download a silly third-party app. It's pretty awesome. It is worth mentioning that some of these fancy features that we've just spoken about are not going to work for everyone. Samsung in the past had been an ecosystem that would work pretty well with other Android phones at the very least, but nowadays that's not so much the case. So if you've got a Google Pixel, for example, you can definitely use that with the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, but you are going to lose out on certain things, perhaps like blood pressure, ECG, and sleep apnea detection. If you've got an iPhone, I mean, I'm very sorry, you've just wasted 5-6 minutes of your time. It's just not going to work. It's just not worth getting a Galaxy Watch, in my opinion. Just go off and buy an Apple Watch or switch to Samsung. Anyway, the software in general, I mean, it's very familiar. I think Samsung's done a great job of keeping the UI as simple and user-friendly as possible, whilst being just the right amount of flashy. The likes of the Apple Watch Ultra 3 software is arguably much more polished and sophisticated in comparison to the Galaxy Watch's One UI system, but I think it's much harder to use and much less practical. The current version of One UI does feel extremely smooth, but above all else, it's clear. I have to admit, I didn't like the multi-tiles at first, but they have grown on me. It just means less swiping. That doesn't mean it's completely perfect. I do think some of it could do with a little bit of a refresh, the settings panel being a really good example of this. I mean, it works great, but it's starting to look a little bit outdated in my opinion. Overall performance on the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, there's been very few stutters, but I have to be honest, again, compared to the latest Apple Watches, it can start to feel a little bit sluggish and a little bit less fluid, but I'm convinced it's more of an animation issue as opposed to an actual performance problem. Anyway, I don't really want to end this section with a whinge. There is a lot of other things to love about the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. Obviously, all the Galaxy Watches now have got access to the Play Store, which means you can download things like Strava and Spotify, and with the onboard storage of 64 gigabytes on the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, an increase over the previous versions, that means you can add things like your audiobooks and your music directly onto the watch, meaning you don't need to actually stream it using LTE. You can technically still go for an untethered run with this watch because it's also got built-in GPS. You've even got apps like Facer again now if you'd like to customize your watch faces, which brings me on to a really nice point about Galaxy Watches in general. The selection of watch faces that you get is just unmatched by any other smartwatch smartwatch on the market, in my opinion. The levels of customization really are brilliant. I've done tons of episodes of watch face wars showing off some of the best Galaxy Watch faces on the market, so do make sure you subscribe for that. Back to some of the more serious stuff now for a second. In terms of accuracy, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but in a nutshell, I think it's fine. The only real struggle is sleep tracking. But I've said it before and I will say it again, can you really blame a smartwatch for not knowing the difference between you just staying very still but still being awake or being genuinely asleep? I kind of argue no. What I do think the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is absolutely brilliant for is giving you general insights into your overall health and fitness within a very good margin for error. It definitely, in my opinion, gives you data that you can genuinely act upon and rely upon. I've made massive leaps in my overall fitness and health over the past few years using just the Galaxy Watches. What I'm saying is the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is not to be relied upon for medical grade stuff because it's not actually meant for that. But for everything else, i.e. general health insights, I think it's absolutely wicked. Anyway, if you are going to be taking things a little bit more seriously and sweating it out with the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic, don't let the more delicate, luxurious appearance fool you. It is pretty hardy. Samsung brought out their hybrid leather straps, which I've actually been really impressed with. They are a great idea. So sweat is fine in that sense, but the actual watch itself is IP68 rated, so you can shower, you can sweat, you can even go sea swimming with it, which I have done, by the way, and there's no signs of damage at all, not even from the salt water. It's also worth noting that the display this year is sapphire glass, which means it's going to be a little bit less prone to scratches. And like I say, mine still looks absolutely brand new. So should you buy a Galaxy Watch 8 Classic in 2026? Well, look, my opinion on the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic has actually improved after the last 6 months of usage. I actually think it is a very good watch in a very competitive space, and it does have a few unique features that other smartwatches on the market just don't have. I do think it's a little bit overshadowed by the Galaxy Watch Ultra in terms of battery life and the size of the display, but again, the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic has a degree of practicality and sophistication that the Watch Ultra doesn't have. To decide if the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic is worth it or not for you, I think you just need to ask two very simple questions. The first one is, can you cope with having to charge it for just 30 minutes every single day? The second, do you prefer the design and form factor of the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic over the Galaxy Watch Ultra? If the answer is yes to both of those questions, I'd say just go ahead and buy one. You're probably not going to be disappointed. However, you should definitely consider the Galaxy Watch Ultra first. So make sure you check out my dedicated video on the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic versus the Galaxy Watch Ultra in the top left or right corner now. See you in the next one.